Hey everybody, welcome back. This episode, I have dug into my bag of tricks and she found me by watching some of the previous episodes. One of my former teachers from my alma mater. If you've been watching, you know that I said that wrong on purpose. Please welcome to the podcast, Dr. Carolyn Hines. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. I was a student in her word power class, so we had a lot of fun trying to manipulate words so that we could find ways to be evil to people and they didn't know we were doing it.
That's correct.
So you know how this works. Tell me something that you will never forget about your time as a teacher.
Well, I have to start by being a little bit serious and saying that when I started out teaching, I was a horrible teacher. I was too young. I didn't have any life experience. And it was only after I came back around to it, after years of maturing and having my own kids, that I magically turned into someone that kids could relate to. And that is so odd. I know that you have that talent too, and hope to encourage more people to go into teaching with this very series that you've got. But as far as my funny stories, a lot of my funny stories originate not in my classroom, but in the room that contained the yearbook and newspaper, which offers ample fodder for all kinds of horror show things happening. The one that stands out the most is that we were working on a deadline. Usually the deadline was right at the 1st of February, and we were bumping up against that deadline. Finally got it finished. Everybody was thrilled. And one of the students who now works in the DOJ for our government was transferring information from his computer to a thumb drive.
New technology back then, yeah?
It was extra. We had one Mac computer, one. And then one year we got donated like 3 more, and we thought we were in heaven. We thought it couldn't get any better. And not only that, but we had a brand new digital camera, the only one around forever. So anyway, he was transferring this information from his computer to the thumb drive. And all of a sudden he jumps up out of his chair, starts cursing with the worst possible words you can imagine, and jumping all around. And everybody's like, what's wrong? And he said, I just transferred the stuff the wrong way. And I'm like, what do you mean by the wrong way? He said, instead of putting the information on the thumb drive, I took the empty thumb drive and wrote it on top of the stuff. And everybody was like, this isn't good.
How long have you been working on compiling information?
For 3 months.
Goodness gracious.
So we all scurried around, found what we could. We were able to retrieve some of the stuff that he had done. But that moment was so funny because when there is cursing of the worst nature in a classroom, the rest of the kids don't know what to do. They look at the teacher first, like, oh, what is going to happen? And then as soon as I found out what it was, it became one of the funniest incidents that anybody ever told who was in that room at the time. And they all remember it.
I feel like you were one of, and I had several phenomenal teachers at Bossy High School in Evansville, Indiana. There were so many teachers that I had that helped shape my life. You, in particular, were one that I think I pulled a lot of my philosophy of how I relate to kids from you. Because in an instance like that, if somebody were to use a foul word in class, you were one of the only teachers that it mattered content and context. If they were using that, as an attack on someone else.
Oh, that's unacceptable. No.
That would not have stood in your class. However, you are also not the teacher that if somebody was passionate about something and said something that you were just going to automatically write them up and take them to the office. So that line that you found of understanding that kids are emotional and passionate and make mistakes and should be given the freedom to figure out where they fit and what you can say and what you can't say.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot of that from your style of teaching. And it still affects people now in central Nebraska because they'll give me that look like, you're going to let them say that? I'm like, well, think about it from his perspective.
Exactly.
You can make it a teachable moment, or they could run around like, that dude's a jerk. You can't say anything in his class or he's going to kick you out of class. I'm not that guy.
And I really had to talk to a couple of kids from time to time saying, look, you can't just randomly say the F-bomb. That's not what this is about. It's not about you getting away with whatever you can say in my room. And they understood, after I explained it to them, that it was a matter of context. They understood what they could and could not do, because I would call them out on that.
People keep asking me, how do you teach these days? Because kids are so much worse. No, they're not.
They're the same.
They're going to do whatever it is that you allow them to get away with. And they're all hungry for that line. They want to know where that line is so they know how far they can bump up against it.
Yes.
Now, if I go too far, now we've got something that we need to talk about on a private level. But show me where that line is so I know where I can be comfortable and what is edgy and what isn't.
Yes. Yes. We can't expect kids in a society to pretend that they don't belong to that culture. And I think that was especially true at Bossy, an inner city school, where what they saw in school, I felt like had to match some of the stuff that they saw at home so that there wouldn't be a huge disconnect with everything. And not that everybody ran around saying whatever they felt like, but you don't want school to be a foreign place for kids.
I've always tried to, from a teaching aspect, find them where they are and then show them
exactly
where they can go. Not necessarily where they should go, because it's not my responsibility.
It's their life.
Yeah. But if you're going to try to make it to this point in life, or if you're going to be in a situation like this, you need to have these tools in your bag so that you can communicate. And I've had kids tell me, you're two-faced. You don't talk to the principal the same way that you talk to us.
That's correct.
Wait a minute. That makes me a more effective communicator, because
exactly.
As wonderfully diverse as Bossy is and was, I think it gave me one of the best educations, because I feel like I can walk up and talk to anybody from any background, any color, any lifestyle. I feel like I can communicate with people. And I think I got one of the best educations I could have possibly got from you and your colleagues at Bossy while we were there. Speaking of communication and how important that is, you had one of the only phones in your room.
Yes, I was all that in a bag of Grippos, as they say here in southern Indiana.
So anyway, back to communication.
Yes.
You had a telephone in your room, which was novel. I tell people, this is how you know how old I am. My sophomore year in high school was the first time the typing class became keyboarding, because that was the first computers that we had in there. The kids a year ahead of us actually took typing class on a actual typewriter. And
That's right.
We were the first ones to start using computers. That's how old I am.
I just threw away an old typewriter.
Did you really?
Yes. An old electric typewriter that I had. Yeah.
So give me a story about your phone in your classroom.
Okay. Well, my phone, which I had because I was the newspaper and yearbook sponsor, and they didn't want to talk to any advertisers down in the office, so we would have them call on our phone. So one day I had sent a kid out because he used bad language against me. Called me a name, and it starts with B. Most of you probably can figure that out. So I sent him down with a referral. Not that I mean, why would anybody call me that? I'm such a sweet person. But anyway, sent him down to the office. A few minutes later, ring goes the phone. It's the assistant principal, Dean. who is in charge of discipline. As you recalled, he was a huge man.
Giant African-American guy with a real deep voice. He scared the crap out of us.
He scared us. So anyway, it's this guy on the phone, and he says, I got so-and-so down in my office, and you have sent him down here with a referral that says that he used bad language against you in your room. Well, what'd he say? So all the kids are sitting there in rapt attention of what was going on, because they could sense that there was trouble afoot. So I said, well, he called me a name. Well, what'd he call you? I said, Mr. So-and-so, I am standing in front of my class. That's all right. What'd he call you? I said, okay, he called me B. And the class is like, stunned that I even knew that word. And so we all got quite a laugh out of that.
You said something just there that got me, that they were stunned that you knew that word, right?
Yes.
What is it about us that, like, I can remember Schnucks was our local grocery.
Absolutely.
And I can remember going to Schnucks with my mom to go grocery shopping. And if I saw a teacher there, it was the weirdest thing ever. It's like your brain as a kid doesn't understand that these are people with jobs.
They think we're kept in closets.
Yeah, that they live at the school and they have a cot in their room, right? You don't think about it. So that was really weird to see teachers. So I can understand for them to have heard you say something that they've never heard you say before, like,
Right. It was a big shock. Well, it was a big shock to me to have to say it in front of my class.
I've had a couple other of my former colleagues talk about that full circle moment where somebody that you affected came back and had an effect on you, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I know that you have a very special example of that. Would you share that with us?
Yes. My older son, whom you played baseball with, developed in his 30s the first symptoms of polycystic kidney disease. This is a disease where cysts are formed in various organs in your body, and it can be fatal. At the very least, you're going to have to go on dialysis at some point. And so he started getting high blood pressure in his 30s. And we knew that he probably had it because it is an inherited disease and his dad has it. So that was the first sign that he was developing this disease. As you might guess, even when he got the high blood pressure, we were kind of devastated in our family because we knew what it meant. And as time went on, he did develop the cysts in his kidneys, developed full-blown polycystic kidney disease, and eventually moved on to end-stage renal disease. This means that there is a high chance of you're going to go on dialysis or you're going to die. So anyway, he decided to move forward with the idea of a transplant and was tested for that, was qualified, could get a transplant, was healthy enough to. Time went on. We decided to put it on Facebook that he was needing a transplant. And so actually quite a few people came forward to be tested, but no one ever qualified. We kept getting people tested. They kept getting rejected. And they said, well, there's another one that's come forward, and it looks like he's going to be a match. So we had no idea who that was because they don't disclose the name. One day, a student that I had kept in touch with all during his college career and his work career, I'd kept in touch with him and was very, very close to him. I regarded him as what I told you was my third son. And so one day he calls me and says he's in town. He lives in Connecticut now. He's in town to see his mother, and would I like to have lunch? I said, okay, why don't you bring lunch to my office and we can talk. So he comes in at lunch and we're sitting there talking, just chit-chatting, and all at once he says, do you remember? And he named a name. And I said, no, was that somebody from Bossy? And he said, no, that's the transplant coordinator at the University of Louisville. And I could cry now really easy at the emotion that I had at that time because I knew what that meant. And he said, yes, I am a match and I'm going to donate. I've talked about it with my family. They're behind me. And so we went forward with the transplant, and he got that in March of 2021 and has been, he's been able to return to teaching and carry on with that. He is living a fairly happy, healthy life. He's married, doesn't have any kids, so no grandkids for me, but I'm okay with it. I have this fantasy of what being a grandmother would be like. And, I can see my kids absorbing the wisdom of the elders and things like that. But actually, I'm not that much of a kid person. Like, I never wanted to teach elementary school or anything like that. It's just like, get those kids away from me. So I think it's just a fantasy I have about being a grandmother. But anyway, he's living a very happy life, enjoys his life on a daily basis. And I'm very thankful to my friend, and I know he wouldn't mind my saying his name, David Gustafson, who was the donor of the kidney. Actually, he and Adam have become pretty close friends. And whenever he's in this area, goes out with him and his wife to dinner, and they catch up and everything like that. So David and his family have been the biggest blessing to our life that you can possibly imagine. And it's not just from the donation of that kidney, it's from the whole relationship that has evolved around their family and our family. That has been the blessing.
Another amazing story of how in the moment we're doing our job, our calling, and somehow what we do and how we do it affects somebody so that it comes full circle and comes back, and we actually benefit from somebody because they benefited from us, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. That's the great thing about life and what you can do with it.
The last thing that I want to say is thank you so much for being willing to jump on here.
I've enjoyed it.
You mentioned something a while ago about that you didn't want anything to do with the little kids, right?
Oh, yes.
So I was out of school for 6 years before I came back to get my master's and then get into education. And when I went to go get my master's degree, I hadn't even thought about this before, okay? But they asked me, what level do you want to teach? Because that was going to determine, what my classes
what
were.
Program was.
And the first thing I thought of was, I don't want middle school kids because their bodies are all changing and I don't want to deal with any of that stuff. And then the second thought I had was, if the little kids make me mad, I want to throw them out the window. So I'll teach high school kids because they'd be harder to get out the window. Dr. Hines, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today.
That's all right. I enjoyed it very much. And the reason that I volunteered to come on is because I remembered you and still keep in touch with you on Facebook sometimes.
Yes, ma'am.
And realize the good things that you are doing for people every single day. And that's very impressive to me because sometimes it seems like that's hard to find in our world right now. And you are one of those, if I can be a little bit, emotional, you are one of those shining stars that we are depending on to carry forward the legacy of our culture. And you are understanding about, diversity of people and how important it is to accept people on their level. Whatever they bring to you is what you take. And, I can't praise you highly enough for that. You have changed a lot since high school.
Yeah. For the good, right?
Yes, for the good.
Have a wonderful day. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Bye-bye.